Year in, year out, the Pac-12 produces the best passers in college football. Jared Goff off to the NFL. Who is left in this conference for 2016? We bring in the best bloggers available covering the Pac-12 conference as well here on Mark Rogers TV to break down the top 5 at each position. We start at quarterback. Don King from Last Word on Sports, Jack Fullman from Pacific Takes, and also Mike Regalado from Gojo Bruin to help us out here. So I'm going to come in at the end with my humble opinion as well, but we start with the experts and we go to Don King. Don, Jared Goff gone, a number of other top-notch quarterbacks from this conference. So what do you have left here in regards to productivity, and not necessarily the best in 2015, but kind of how you project it for this fall?
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting season, I think. There are some changes. I think, as I think about the conference's quarterbacks, 1 and 2 are really clear to me. Some question about the order, which may come to Mike's dismay, but I think 1 and 2 are really, really straightforward. And honestly, I think I'm going to agree with where Mike comes out on that too. But I do think there's at least room for conversation on that. After that, it gets a little bit tougher. But I still think there's going to be some fantastic quarterback play in the Pac-12 conference this year. So my number 5 is Anu Solomon. And yeah, I think he's going to start for Arizona again. No, I don't. I know there's a competition going. I know he was hurt and missed the spring game. But I think he's going to be the guy. I think he's going to start. I think he's going to have a huge bounce back year, and I think he's going to be in the upper echelon of quarterbacks in the conference. 4th, I've got Davis Webb at Cal, the transfer. I think he's going to play exceptionally well, and you know, I can't tell you he's going to be Jared Goff-like, number 1 pick-like performer. But I think he's going to have a solid season, and I think Cal's going to continue its renaissance, if you will. It's been more gradual than the faithful would like, but they're a lot better. 3rd, I've got Jake Browning at UW. Another really solid passer. Got a year under his belt as a starter. I think he's going to be a really solid performer in the conference this year. 2nd, his Washington State counterpart, Luke Falk at Wazoo. I've seen lists that had him listed as the top quarterback this year, and honestly, I think it's a valid, legitimate argument. He's going to be one of the best in the conference. He played really well at stretches last year, and you know, in one game in particular against my Stanford Cardinal, he looked fantastic. So the kid's going to be a really good player, and I think he's going to be an outstanding pro prospect as well. But number 1, I've got Josh Rosen at UCLA. If he can manage to not piss off his head coach on a weekly basis and stay in the good graces there with Coach Moore, I expect phenomenal things from him this coming season. You know, he's just the kid is kind of prototypical. He's a terrific player, got a great arm. I think he's the best quarterback in the conference in 2016.
You heard that, Mike. You better be getting word to your boy Josh Rosen. He can't be upsetting Mr. Moore on the sideline, and before they even hit the field in game 1.
Yeah, that'd be bad to have him sit for a quarter or a half just because of something stupid. Let's just say that.
All right. Again, for Don here, we got Anu Solomon, Pac-12 Offensive Rookie of the Year a couple of years ago and leading Arizona to the Pac-12 South Championship. Davis Webb, the transfer, at number 4. Jake Browning at 3. Luke Falk at number 2. Josh Rosen entering his sophomore season at UCLA at number 1.
It seems that there were 3 really good quarterbacks in the past. You know, I think it was like 2 years ago, the last 2 seasons. The Pac-12 has been known as the conference of quarterbacks. Well, a lot of those quarterbacks have moved on, and right now, you know, we're just seeing, you know, a bunch of youth stepping up. Especially the ones that are looking to be the top 3 quarterbacks in the conference. But right now, I have it was a tough one, you know, between Max Brown at USC and Davis Webb. But I'm going to pick Webb just because I think, you know, he has a lot to work with. You know, Jared Goff is off to the NFL over here in Los Angeles, as a matter of fact. But he set up Webb, with a really good offense, and he has a lot of good players surrounding him. So I think he should be fairly successful and not have a huge drop off, from losing the #1 pick in the NFL draft. Number 4, Anu Solomon. Didn't have the greatest year last year, but I like his athleticism. 2 years ago he kind of blew everyone away just with. He didn't have that many weapons to work with, and he still did wonderful things for Arizona. That was a year I think they beat Arizona State for the South Division. So I just think that he's going to be able to pick it up. I like Rich Rodriguez. I think he's a great coach, and he's going to be able to put Solomon in the best position to be successful. And the top 3, here we go. These are the 3 best quarterbacks. I think everybody will agree. I like Jake Browning at Washington at number 3. Specifically because he's very patient. Not a lot of people expected him to do what he did last year, but he's a very good passer, very patient, and just to see what he's doing in Chris Peterson's offense is just fantastic. So he's going to be a real threat. Part of the reason a lot of people are picking Washington over Stanford this year in some polls. I don't see that happening just yet, but it'll be interesting. Number 2 is Luke Falk, and not just because of bias. Obviously my number 1 is Josh Rosen, but going back to Luke Falk, an incredible passer. He's very accurate, very strong arm. Very patient. He can throw the ball on the run, and he's dangerous. The Bruins saw that. When he threw a touchdown with 3 seconds left at the Rose Bowl for the Cougars to beat them. So UCLA fans know exactly what Washington State has, and like I said, number 1, Josh Rosen. He just had the tools coming in. Hands down, won the quarterback battle as a true freshman. And this year he has a lot more backup than last year, so we're going to be able to see him do a lot more. Creative things, especially running the read option, which we didn't see a lot of last year. The Bruins had a significant drop-off at quarterback, so if Rosen went down, there was going to be, a little chance of success after that. But this year, they have up to 3 backup quarterbacks, so they might give some freedom to Rosen this year. So he's my number 1.
Diversity, guys. What's going on here? Well, I guess I can't blame you guys because I'm pretty much falling in line as well, but I'm going to spit it out here. Davis Webb, let's consider one thing. The Texas Tech's quarterback is Patrick Mahomes, who finally beat out Davis Webb, but Davis Webb held him off for a long time, and Mahomes is probably one of the 10 best in the nation right now. He threw for 36 touchdowns last year, so now Davis Webb moves in to the Pac-12 and should light up some scoreboards, as Don alluded to. At number 4, I've got actually Jake Browning there. What I find very interesting about this situation, and Washington could be the wild card of the conference because, as we discussed with Jack Follman a couple weeks ago, check out that video, the offensive line is coming back, 4 out of 5 starters, and they look to very much improve. Myles Gaskin coming off a 1,300-yard season. If the wide receivers are better than expected, Browning, you sync up the running back, the offensive line, and the quarterback after a year's experience, after they took some rough rides last year but improved late. It could be good for the offense there at UW. All right, Anu Solomon, I've got him at number 3. Don, you alluded to it. There's actually a battle for the position. Kind of hard to believe since this kid, as I talked about off the top, broke into the starting lineup as a true freshman, won the South Division, was the Offensive Rookie of the Year in the Pac-12, took the team to a Fiesta Bowl. Now he's trying to hold off Brandon Dawkins and Khalil Tate for the starting job. He was roughed up a little bit last year. If you look at his stats, they're good, but against the better teams, he had a rough go. He padded those stats against 4 or 3 pretty weak non-conference teams. I've got Josh Rosen at number 2. Of course, he was exceptional as a freshman last year, right out of the gate against Virginia. Mike, don't give me that look. He's going to have to pay his dues a little bit more before he sells me on number 1. If we're going ceiling, Josh Rosen, a clear number 1, but I still like Luke Falk in the way he distributes the football and just throws on time and does some great things out of that spread offense. So for Rosen, what impressed me is actually one of his worst games. Game 2 or 3 against BYU, three
Yeah.
picks, 100 yards passing. They're down late. He drives them down the field, wins the game.
Yep.
Washington State, even though Falk made the play that won it at the wire, Rosen did everything he could. He drove the ball down the field against the Washington State defense, made the remarkable run down the middle from like 35 yards to seemingly win the game, put the football game in the hands of his defense at that point. He can make all the throws, and he's a tremendous player. Luke Falk, my two selling points here, and Don can appreciate this, and we talked about it a lot after this game. If they get that fifth field goal made out of their kicker on the last drive, Washington State, let that sink in. Washington State's going to the Rose Bowl with Luke Falk at quarterback. They win 9 games because of Luke Falk mostly. And my other selling point is the game that he missed. If you're going to target him as a system quarterback, they had that string of impressive wins where they were double-digit underdogs, I think 4 consecutive weeks, and won the games outright. And then they play Washington, their hated rival, the last game of the season. Falk misses the game. They lose by 35 points.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen, good selections there. We were pretty much a consensus across the board, but that's okay. I'm sure as we dive into other positions, we will have some debate on our hands. So for Don King, for Mike Regalado, for Jack Fullman, that's the top 5 at quarterback in the Pac-12.